What's up, guys? Rick here with 4 more ways to get involved in fantasy golf for 2025. I already released a video for one and done purposes. That was a complete mega preview for one and done specifically, but I wanted to point out 4 more options for you. And these are going to be maybe some ways that you've heard of, maybe ways that you're already participating in. I'll introduce them. We'll talk a little bit of strategy, and then I'll show you where or how you might be able to get involved. We're very much at the infancy of fantasy golf, and quite honestly, golf betting, especially in the United States. So a lot of this stuff is changing all the time. I'm going to give you the most up-to-date information that I have, and hopefully it's helpful for you heading into the new year. We're going to start with season-long fantasy golf, and I'm going to show you a league, an example from last year that, oh, yeah, I just happened to be the champion of. That was a weird thing, but I think this is the format that I'm maybe most bullish about. It is one I've tried to advocate for over the last couple of years. We are still very far from ideal scenarios when it comes to season-long fantasy golf, but the idea being that we just take basically everything that has made fantasy football great and apply it to golf. Both are weekly games. You can play matchups against your buddies or against people that you meet online or get into leagues. And if you beat them that week, you get a win and you're 1-0 and you move on into the playoffs. And it's very easy to just kind of take what has already been done in fantasy football and apply it to fantasy golf. So that's what we've done here in this league, which is this league is a $1,000 league. It is 8 people that I know from the industry. I play in a couple of other leagues. I think 2 years ago, I was in way too many. I was in like 40 leagues. It was way over my head. I really tried to narrow it down to just a couple for 2024, and I'll probably do the same for 2025. But the way that you see this, it is structured very similarly to regular fantasy football. So 8 teams, you play one of the other 7 teams every single week. And we've made some adjustments to scoring over the years. The first year we did kind of a fantasy scoring model, which worked well, but really it as long as if your guys made the cut, you were going to win, and it didn't really matter otherwise. We changed last year in 2024 to go to a money model. So you get points for how much money was earned. And because it is on a tournament by tournament basis, it doesn't really matter if first place is 4 million or first place is 1.1 million. It's all being scaled equally by tournament. So as long as you win the week, it doesn't really matter. The good thing about this is even if you miss a cut, if you have a golfer that wins the golf tournament, you're probably still going to be able to win that matchup. So that is one change that we made in 2024. The other change that we made is we used to have rosters that were 12 golfers, 6 you had to start and 6 you had to sit. And with the new scheduling system, the signature events and the non-signature events, there were times where if you wanted to be competitive in some of the non-signature events, you were almost turning over your entire roster, which is something that I didn't really think was great for the league. So what we did last year, and I think this worked out a lot better, is there are only 4 starters. And then what we did is let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, we added 2 more spots. I couldn't remember how many spots we added. So now these are rosters of 14. Does that make sense? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes. Sheesh. 14 with 4 starters and 10 on your bench. So this does a couple of things. You can stash the golfers that are really only playing in the non-signature events. In my case, you see here, that would have been like, I don't know, Luke List, Jake Knapp, Bo Hostler on this team, right? And then you don't have to give up on Tommy Fleetwood, Rory McIlroy, Will Zalatoris. The other thing is, now that you're only starting 4 guys, you did have to make some interesting decisions. There were times, especially when you get to major championships, where it's like, am I going to, I sat Will Zalatoris at the Open Championship, right? That's pretty crazy, right? So you have to make some better, I think, more valuable decisions about who sits and who starts when you have a smaller number of starting options. And everybody plays the same position. There's no positions to be had there. As far as strategy goes on this, I think there's two things. I think having a really solid set of rankings to start the year is important. And you're going to see me reference these rankings on RickRunGood.com probably a handful of times throughout this video. And what I've done is I've gone through, I've pulled 2024 results, strokes gained, top 10s, wins, volume, all of that stuff. I then did my best to grab everybody who was eligible for different events. Are you eligible for the signature events? Are you eligible for the players? And then the 4 major championships, like, because that's going to determine what events you're playing. So if you see a golfer like Frankie Sappin, Frankie Sappin's probably going to end up falling into that, that second part of your team, right? Probably not going to play the big events, but you're going to probably be able to play him at the 3M Open and the Rocket Mortgage and stuff like that. So I find this chart very useful. The other thing that I did is I created a score. I won't bore you with the details, but basically it looks at strokes gained. It looks at projected volume for the upcoming year, how often they're finishing near the top of the leaderboard, and it assigns a score to every golfer. The score doesn't really matter. Just know that 100 is average, is tour average. And I think I only included players on this list who are above or who are positive. So 100, so Harry Hall, Brian Harmon, they are like the average golfer in this scenario. Scotty Scheffler at a 386 means he's nearly 4 times as valuable in these fantasy formats than the tour average player. Now that drops off pretty quickly. Only Scotty and Rory are in the 300s. There's only a handful of guys, 10 or 12 guys in the 200s, right? So it does drop off pretty quickly, but this is a very, very useful tool that I will probably reference a handful of times throughout this video. Drafting is important, but even more important than that is going to be your waiver wire, right? Being available. So the way that we have the waiver wire set up is it's been a couple months since I've thought about this, but it basically works exactly the same as fantasy football. So on Monday of that week, the tournament ends on Sunday. Monday the following day, you make your claims. I believe they get processed on Tuesday, and then anybody who has not been processed through waivers becomes a free agent. So then you can go pick them up on Wednesday and start them for the tournament on Thursday. Okay, so that's how it works. And what I have found is being, I don't want to say active because I don't think I made a ton of transactions, but just, picking up a guy that's starting in a tournament, absolutely making sure you're filling out a full roster every single week. Finding a golfer who's been, a little bit hot, right? Who's been playing well over the course of the last couple of starts that might be at a good course fit for them. Picking that golfer up and feeling comfortable sticking them in the starting lineup, because unlike fantasy football, I don't play a ton of fantasy football, but I imagine there's not a lot of scenarios in which, outside of somebody, a starting running back or something like that being injured, you're probably not picking up somebody on waivers and immediately putting them in your starting lineup. That's different in golf because not everybody's playing every single week. So it is important. I think it is more important to be here on the waiver wire and in free agency than in fantasy football. And then, of course, the live golfers do become eligible for the major championship. So what you'll see is sometimes at the end of the draft, you might see someone like Jon Rahm get drafted in the final round. And that is because they're going to be stashed at least through the Masters, or maybe all season long. The other thing you'll see is as we get closer to major championships, when we're 2 or 3 weeks out, you're going to see guys like maybe Cam Smith, Sergio Garcia starting to find rosters because they're likely going to be played when we get to those major championships. So to give you an idea of what the draft looked like for us, Scotty Scheffler went number 1, no surprise there, and he absolutely paid for all of that. I took Rory McIlroy second, which I guess my other option there was probably, I don't know, it was probably pretty clearly Rory McIlroy because Xander did not go until the 8th pick, which was probably one of the most valuable picks of the draft. One of the ones that struggled, of course, Victor Hovland 3rd overall, Patrick Cantlay 4th overall. Those would have really not paid off very well. Max Homa at 7th overall would not have paid off very well. You'll see Tyrrell Hatton did go at the end of the 2nd round, but I believe that would have been before we knew he was going to live golf. So that ended up being a struggle. I'm trying to see if like John Rahm got drafted anywhere. It does not look like he did. So maybe there were no live golf. Oh no, I'm sorry. John Rahm went in the 6th round. Would that have been before we knew that he was going to go, or after? What had to have been after, because he would have gone well before that. So he was taken in the 6th round and stashed. I wonder if he stayed on that team all year long. And then I'm just trying to see if there are any other. Bryson went in the 9th round, just to give you an idea. Dustin Johnson went in the 12th round. He probably did not stay on a roster all year long. And I think that's it at first glance of golfers who are strictly live golfers, or at the time we knew. So you'll see like that there's a lot that changes here. And even when you get to the 4th and 5th rounds, like I drafted Brian Harmon and Bo Hostler 4th and 5th rounds. I don't know if how often I even played those guys, right? So there's a lot of intermingling of players and turnover once you start getting into the season. I think really only like the first 3 or 4 rounds are really, really critical in the draft to get that right. In terms of playing and how to get involved. So let's talk about a couple of things. In the past, I have kept a Google Doc sheet for everybody. Very, very difficult. A lot of maintenance there, but we did get I think we got 100 leagues up and running, something like that. And a lot of them ran again last year for the second time. They just resumed. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to need at least 2 spots in this $1,000 league. If you are interested, reply in the pinned comment below. So what I'll do is I'll pin a comment below asking for people who are interested in the $1,000 league and asking for people who are interested in a $500 league. And those are the 2 that I'll play in this year, outside of any other private ones that I'm doing. So it'll last you the whole season. I know it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot to put up, but it'll last the whole season. So you can comment below on that pinned comment, and I will randomly draw from there if I need to, if there's too much of what am I thinking of? Interest. So the way that we do it is we run the regular season until the final few weeks. So our 8 teams get chopped down to 4 for the playoffs. And we run the regular season just like they do to the end of the regular season, the Wyndham Championship. And then the top 4 go to the playoffs, which round 1 is the FedEx St. Jude, round 2 is the BMW Championship, and that is it. We've tested maybe multiple weeks of playoffs, but I found that if you align it with the real playoffs, you're going to get all your stars there. You don't want to end your season at the Wyndham Championship because Rory McIlroy is not going to play the Wyndham Championship. Scotty Scheffler is not going to. So you don't want to end your season there. You want to end it when it's valuable for everyone. So we do a 2-week playoff, and then after the first week, the winners play for 1st and 2nd, and the losers play for 3rd and 4th. We pay out 3 out of those 8 spots. So that's the way we do it. There are probably a ton of different ways that you can do it, and I know there's a ton of different ways that you can do it. As far as places that you can play, we have run this on Fantrax. Fantrax is not good, okay? But it does the job. There are a lot of problems. It is clearly just a site that was built for football that has been reskinned for golf. If you have heard me rant about this before, it's the same stuff, right? It is clearly not built for golf, but it does the job. It has a mobile app. It works. I used to have a really good contact there. Years ago, they went through a data issue. I think half the people left. They just had a ton of turnover. I don't know who's there anymore, but it does the job. I'm not vouching for it being the greatest thing ever, but it does the job. The other option, and I think that this will start to get more popular as time goes on, is Buzz Fantasy Golf. I know Matt, and I've gotten to know Matt over the last couple of years, who runs this website, and this is golf specific, and it is built for golf. It is not as customizable as Fantrax, though it is quite customizable. It might not be as flashy, or I don't think there's a mobile app, but there have been some significant upgrades to this site. I actually, a lot of you have heard me say, like, I've investigated trying to build one of these sites myself, and I just ran into kind of a lot of legal issues and regulation and stuff like that. But I could see a world in which Buzz Fantasy Golf like becomes the market leader in the next couple of years. So they have a nice draft room. They've got, this is a huge improvement over what it used to look like. And what I like about it is you can just join leagues that are out there or create a league. So that was the issue with a lot of the season long stuff before, is like, who's going to take the time to create the league and then put it in the spreadsheet and get people to fill it. And it ended up being a problem. Well, the fact that you can now join a league from the lobby on Buzz Fantasy is huge. So I can look through here and say, okay, well, here's a public league. Do I want to play in a league that has these rules? And it's got the tournaments here, and it tells you what the restrictions are. You select a golfer, whatever, 8 times, or I don't know, whatever the rules are, right? And there's salary caps, and there's a draft auction, and there's tiers. So there's like a lot of different, there's something for everyone here. So I think that the more people that play on this, I think the better this probably gets. So I'm optimistic about the future of Buzz Fantasy. And again, I've gotten to know Matt, great dude, seems to have a clear vision of what's going on here. That would be another good option as well. So with that being said, I'll put links in the description for everything that I show in this video, for Fantrax, for Buzz Fantasy. If you want to be involved in one of my leagues, the $1,000 league or the $500 league, comment on that pinned comment, and we'll go from there. Next up is best ball, and this is, as far as I'm aware, primarily being played on Underdog. It's probably the best place to play it, and this is a really awesome format. But unlike season-long fantasy golf, I think that the football version of best ball is better than the golf version, and the reason for that is the lack of consistency in schedules and knowing when golfers are going to play. So let's just talk through what's going on for this year. So Underdog has a couple of big contests going for best ball right now. There's a $10 entry where it is $50,000 for first. There's a $3 entry, 20 max, where it is $2K for first. And then, you can play a variety of, you can get into 2-3 person, like much smaller leagues. So the scramble, that's the big one here. The way that this works, so best ball is you draft a team and that is it. You do not you do not choose who starts. There are no trades. There are no waivers. There's no free agency, nothing. Each week, your highest scoring players are counted as your starters and everybody else is not. And then you take those points and you try to advance. And advancing is the important thing here. Because if we look at the full rules, there are 4 different rounds that you need to get through to win the big best ball. So round 1, you're competing with a group of 6 that you need to win. And if you're the top scorer out of 6, you advance to round 2. Same thing in round number 2. You win a group of 6, you move on. Round 3, you win a group of 6, you move on. And then by that point, if you have made it to round 4, you have narrowed it down to 261 people. And then those final 261 in the last round play for all those other payouts, which are, $50,000 up top. So do they have the prizes in here? Yeah, they do. So once you get to 261, you're guaranteed, $250. If you get through to round 2, you're guaranteed $20. If you get to round 3, you're guaranteed $40 off your $10 entry. And then the final round is where the payouts really, really go big. So you're trying to get as many teams as you can into the 4th round. I actually think, if I remember correctly, these rounds do look a little bit better than last year. I want to say last year there were 5 or 6 rounds, and one of them was like a round of 10, then it was a round of 6, then it was weird. But there's still an issue with the scheduling because when you look at the rounds here, round two, and this is the problem that I had, and hearing from you guys, a lot of you had this problem, is I basically got bounced in round two a lot more than I should have because I just had no volume there. I didn't have any guys that were playing in that round. And it's probably going to be a problem here because there's two big events in round number two, Arnold Palmer Invitational and the Players. So you're going to get Scotty and Rory and all those guys. But you also have the Mexican Open, the Cognizant, the Valspar, the Houston Open, and the Texas Open. And those big boys are not going to play those events. Round three is actually almost the opposite. Round three has two majors, the Masters and the PGA. It has three more signature events, right? RBC Heritage, the Memorial, and I think the Truist is a signature. It used to be the Wells Fargo. Now it's the Truist. I think that's probably a signature event for this year. And then two non-signature events. So my point being, the guys that have a ton of volume in round two are going to be vastly different than the guys that have volume in round number three. So this ends up being a situation in which you need to get almost two separate teams when you are drafting. I don't know if he wants me to share his name, and I'm not going to share any of the screenshots that he sent me, but I've had somebody in the community, I'll just call him Pat, or Patrick is probably better, send me kind of what he's looking at for drafts. And I thought he did a pretty good job with this. So basically, the dirty little secret, I think, is that you've got to do the long drafts. You've got to do the 4-hour drafts because trying to pick the optimal complementary scenario in like the 30-second pick or the 20-second pick, unless you have a program for that, is probably not going to happen. And the way that Patrick was describing it to me is basically the idea of these complementary players. The especially within the first couple of rounds, the ability to grab a golfer that is going to play all of the signature events and maybe one event, and we're doing a lot of guessing here. One of these events that are one-offs, non-signature events, and then another golfer who's going to kind of fill the gap for all the other events. And then as you're drafting your teams, the way that he was doing it is he was keeping a spreadsheet of, what are they eligible for? What are they likely to play? What have they played in the past? All that stuff. And then trying to say, okay, I want to make sure each one of these segments, I have a certain number of starts in each one of those segments, but you could never do all of that in 20 seconds. The 4 hours in between your picks was allowing him to do this, and it was allowing him to find these complementary players, and I thought it was really, really snazzy. I said I'll show this again, but the rankings for the best ball and the drafts are really critical here, right? So this is again on RickRunGood.com. The ability to play a lot, the ability to play at a high level, to play events that others are not going to play, and to see that all in one spot is really, really valuable. I've started to do some of the longer 4-hour rounds and 4-hour pick rounds, and I have at least felt more confident in my selections. I know that it's that's arbitrary, but there were a lot of times in the 20-second picks that I felt like I was being rushed. But with that being said, I'm gonna do a draft with you just so you can kind of get the feel for how this works. But we're gonna do the short one. We are filled up and ready to go here. As this counts down to the start, I will just tell you. So first off, we got the turn 6 and 7. I got to zoom out a little bit. Rory McIlroy being the 7th ADP, which a lot of people will just follow the ADP, is criminal. I know he's probably not going to play all 27 tournaments like he did in 2024, but that's criminal. This ADP looks shockingly bad to me, quite honestly. So I'm not going to follow it too much. I will follow the ranks here on RickRunGood.com, but we're going to be at this turn. If they want to give me Rory at the turn, let's go. Rory and Sahith at the turn, or quite honestly, what do we have? 6, I don't know if I'll get Ludwig, or I don't think Colin will drop to me because it's too his ADP is too high. But let's just see. I imagine it's going Xander, Schauffele, Scotty, Xander, and Colin quite a bit. Okay, well, in an unbelievable turn of events here, Sung Jae Im went third, Colin Morikawa went fourth, Eric Cole went fifth. I'm taking Ludwig and Rory, and I know that they are probably not the greatest complementary selections because they're probably going to play a lot of the same events, but I will deal with the fallout of that in this next turn. Getting back around to us now, and I think that there were a couple of good picks right in front of us. Davis Thompson and Hideki Matsuyama, I think, would have been good options. Aaron Rye right in front of us, I think, is a good option. We have to just kind of take what we can get in these positions here. What I'm going to try to do is do a little bit of an extreme thing that I've been talking about, but I am going to now try to fill those other gaps. So I'm going to take Max Grazerman, and I'm going to take Siwoo Kim. And the idea is probably those guys over Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. Should I have taken JT? Maybe. But Grazerman might be the best player who hasn't won yet, and he might just dominate all of those events that he basically did not get into. And then Siwoo Kim, same thing. I believe he's going to finish the year just outside the top 50 in the OWGR. So there's a good chance he gets into some stuff, but if he doesn't, I don't need him to. And he's been one of the best tee to green players in the world for the last year or so. So just trying to be a little bit different here. And then if I can get, I don't think I'll get JT, or maybe Spieth will fall to me. I have Billy Horschel and Rasmus Højgaard way more value than their ADP. Same with Russell Henley, so I could fall back on those guys here at the next turn. Tommy Fleetwood just went 25th, which I think is criminal. I have him 5th overall. Ton of volume, one of the best players in the world last year, qualified for everything. Sam Burns just went 2. So what I was going to say, I was hoping at this turn here to probably get like 2 of Spieth, Burns, and Henley. Burns just went, so if it's Spieth and Henley, that's great. We're probably getting to the point where those guys are going to start going off the board. Like, how can Mackenzie Hughes go before Russell Henley? I think that is quite criminal. So we're going to see. We've got to get past New Mall here, and we do Nico Echeverria. Am I like sniffing glue? All right, we're going to take Spieth and Henley. Maybe we're square. I don't know. And then now I'm going to start rounding this out with guys that I think like I love my queue right here. Rasmus Højgaard, Billy Horschel, Austin Eckroat, Matt McCarty. Like, give me all of that. I'll throw Taylor Pendrith into it, though probably getting close enough to his ADP where he does not make it to us. But there's some Shane Lowry's a really good option here. So we've got some good options coming up. A couple of really good picks there in the run before us. Pendrith, McIntyre, Shane Lowry off the board. There goes Matt McCarty. That's a pretty sharp pick. So we only have 4 spots on our team left, and we need to fill 2 of them right now, and it's going to be a while before we fill the other 2. So I need to take a couple of stabs here at guys that I really like. I want 3 of Rasmus, Billy Horschel, and Daniel Berger. I'm going to take Rasmus because I think based on his ADP, he's probably the least likely to be there. And as much as I love Billy Horschel, I don't think others like him as much. I'm going to go with Daniel Berger in this spot because I think that Daniel Berger could legitimately be a top 10 player if he's back to healthy and being great again, and he basically has to play all those other events for me. So I'm happy with that. What I would love to get at the end is Billy Horschel and either one of these other 2, Eckroat and Adam Scott. We'll see how this shakes out. We did lose out on Eckroat in that last run there, but other than that, I think we came away pretty unscathed. So we will get 2 of these guys that we like. I did add Matthew Pavone to the list. Really showed us a lot at the beginning of 2024, fell off, has a new swing coach. I've talked about that a lot. I'm bullish on his year. I'm probably going to take Billy Horschel and Matthew Pavone. I worry that Adam Scott's going to play enough. And I did add Neil Shipley to the queue just because I think he's going to play a lot. He's young. I think he's really good, but probably not going to make this squad. So I'm going to round it out with Billy Horschel and Matthew Pavone, which gives me this team, which I'm pretty excited about. Ludwig, Rory, Grazerman, Siwoo, Spieth, Henley, Rasmus, Daniel Berger, Billy Horschel, Matthew Pavone. I mean, Pretty happy about it. I just drafted it, so I should be pretty happy about it. If you want to get involved in this, I'll put a link in the description. Whatever my link is will be the best offer you can get. I think they're currently doing a $100 deposit or $1,000 deposit match or something crazy. They're doing a big match, and my link will always get you the best one. So I'll put that in the link in the link in the description as well. But let's move on from best ball. So the last two are either new in general or new to me, and the new one in general is the PGA Tour's fantasy game. And I saw that they released a new game, and it's got my wheels turning a little bit. First and foremost, just before we jump into this format, for guys like me, for guys like us who are watching this, you want the league invested in fantasy gaming, etc., right? And the more intertwined they get with it, better for everybody. So when the PGA Tour used to have the match play brackets, not only did I love that, it was a bracket, but it was cool to see. And we got a ton of people in that league to participate. And it was really cool. So I want to do that again. I basically feel the obligation to support something like this that gets put out. When the Masters does their fantasy game, same thing, right? I feel an obligation to support this because I want this to be a raging success so that they say, hey, wow, these guys really show up, right? They care about this. They are going to play along. They're going to try to win prizes. They're going to do all this stuff, and we should take them more seriously, right? That's the gist of it. Now, I can go on a rant for a while, but here's the PGA Tour's fantasy game. And as far as I'm aware, this is new. This is either a new format. I really don't know what it was like in the past, but they're touting it as new. And the way that it works is you draft a team each week. Can I pick the century yet? I don't know if I can. No. So you pick 6 players each week, and then 4 of them start. 2 of them sit on your bench, and after each round, you can actually swap guys from your bench and your starters. So it is pretty interactive. The natural cadence of golf, where it ends every single day and they start back up the next day, like you can make swaps, which I imagine gives you a pretty good edge if you're active and doing that. You can get rid of guys that are missing the cut, struggling, whatever, and you could just put your better players in the starter positions. So the rules of this, let me see if I can pull up the rules for this, are similar to like DraftKings scoring or something like that. Your points are being allocated based on eagles, birdies, pars. You're being deducted for bogeys and double bogeys. You get bonuses for a bogey-free round or the low round of the day, which I actually think is pretty cool. Second low round of the day. And then they have this little nugget. You select a team captain each tournament, which gets you double points, and that captain only gets you can't swap your captain. So if your captain misses the cut, like sucks to suck. That's on you. So it takes the parts of, when I started diving into this, I was like, okay, it takes the parts of the game that I like, you know, the similar fantasy scoring. It's got cool bonuses. But then it also has a couple of tweaks that like the team captain and the fact that you can swap throughout. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I'm down with this. Is it worth playing for? Well, it's free. So the way that they're doing it is they're giving away prizes. So do they have the prizes listed here? So if you win the season-long prize, you get a $4,500 PGA Tour Superstore gift card and a studio full bag fitting. So I assume they want you to then use that money for the new clubs, but I guess you could use it for anything you want. Runner-up gets you $2,500, and then third place gets you $1,000. Now that's for season long, but they do have segments. So for each one of the segments, there's like $500 PGA Tour Superstore gift cards and stuff. That's fine. Listen, it's a free game. They want you to be able to play. There is at least a little bit of incentive. I'm going to bump it up a little bit more. So I want to show we mean business. And one of my goals always when we had the fantasy the match play brackets, is I always wanted the Rick Run Good League, the private league, to be the largest private league on the site, because I want them to see us every time they log in and every time they look at it. And I want to do it again. So I have made a Run Good Fantasy League. You can see that I am the commissioner. I'm the only person in it, Rick Run Good, okay? Because I've not made this notable yet. I will put the link in the description to join this. So it'll be the invite link. So you have to have the link to get in. It's a private league. For every person who beats me over the course of the season, I will put all of those names, whether it's one of you or 1,000 of you, into a draw, and I'll give somebody $500. Okay? That's all you got. You beat me, you're in the draw for $500. I'll do it at the end of the year. Plus, obviously, you can win the segment stuff and whatever. But I want them to look at us and say, we're the best, we're the biggest by far. And I think it's kind of an interesting game. I do like I wish there was a player pool loaded in here so that we could actually do this, but I do like the format of the game. I think there's a lot of fun things to solve. So I'm going to be playing this year. I invite you to do it with me. It is absolutely free, and you have chances of winning prizes from the PGA Tour and prizes from me. Let's blow this thing up. And then finally is a format that I think I am going to absolutely love, and I don't want to say get addicted to, but like I could see myself participating in quite a bit. And that's a Calcutta. Now, Calcuttas have been around golf forever, right? And the way that I always knew it was at a club, something like a club championship, or if you have usually like a member guest, if you're a team of 2 and there's 20 teams, all of those teams would go into basically a pool and you could bid on those teams. Right? So if you think that your buddy John and Bill are the best players, I might bid on them to win the member guest. And usually with these, it's an auction style and there's no limits. So the limit might be $100, might be $10,000, might be $100,000 on a specific team. And then usually the purse gets split amongst, first, second, and third in some way. So the more you're bidding, the more that's in the purse, the more that is getting paid out for those percentages. So how does that look in fantasy golf? Because that's kind of the new thing for me is I was like, oh man, there's a lot of these leagues with a variety of rules happening all over the place. So I got invited to one, and I'm not going to disclose where it's at, how it's being run, but I'm just going to show you a mock spreadsheet. This is just a mock-up spreadsheet of this to give you an idea of how this is going to work. So every golfer has a price. Sometimes golfers are lumped together, like the Højgaard brothers are one. Goddard and Bryce Garnett, for whatever reason, are one. And then you bid on these golfers for the 2025 year. And there, again, there's no limits right now. Scotty Scheffler, $7,500. Okay. And the total purse is like 50 grand. So the way that this works is for every tournament, there are payouts first, second, and third place. So if Scotty Scheffler finishes first, he gets X percent of the purse. Let's call it, in this case, it's 1.3%. Finishes second, finishes third. So then, of course, there are increases for the major championships, the players. And this one that I'm in actually also does live golf, the 12 live golf events. And again, the entire payout structure is being discussed. It's all known beforehand. So what I've been going through and doing is basically assigning a value to each one of these players based on whether I'm simulating the seasons or the likelihood of what I think that they are going to return. So for example, right now, if the bidding ended right now, which it doesn't, this is going to get a lot higher. It's probably going to 10x. Scotty Scheffler might go for 40 grand. Seriously. The value for Scotty. So if it ended right now, Scotty Scheffler at $7,500 would need to win probably a major champion, 4 signature events and another one, and then have a couple more kind of runner-up finish. Like he's going to have to do a lot. He's going to have to basically have the year that he had in 2024 to pay for himself. So someone else like Akshay Bhatia, who's currently going for $150, at that price would need 1 third place finish to pay for himself. Okay. So that's the difference. So what I'm going through now, and I'm not quite done yet, is I'm assigning a value. Basically, what percentage of the purse is each golfer worth? And then what amount, because the purse is constantly changing, and every time you bid, the purse goes up, right? So that's constantly changing. So whatever percentage of the purse that they are worth based on what the payouts are, and then you find the golfers that are undervalued to that, and that is who I will be making bids on. So very, very unlikely that I own Scotty Scheffler this year at $7,500. Very unlikely I own Ludwig at $6,000. Is it likely that I bid on Hideki Matsuyama and Tommy Fleetwood, who are currently at $500 a piece? Yeah. Might not win them, but I'm certainly going to be bidding on that. Or some of these guys like, Nick Taylor, who, if you've watched this in the past, like $150 for Nick Taylor right now. Again, any third place finish this year would be good enough to turn a profit. And then we go from there. So there's a lot of things to consider. I'll probably get involved in the live golf stuff as well, but we've got still have a couple of weeks left to bid. But this is a really fascinating format because I think that there is going to be a lot of undervalued golfers. The way that I'm seeing it already is that Scotty Scheffler is going to be just completely ridiculously expensive. So will the top guys will probably be more expensive than they should. And then you're going to have a lot of other guys that are really undervalued. And I'm probably going to try to target them just because I'm not going to drop like 40K on Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy for the year. So not all Calcuttas are of this size. I've seen other ones that are much, much smaller, or they might have limits on where you can go, or actually, I guess they usually only have limits on the top end. But I think that this could be incredibly fun. It has basically best ball, right? Where you draft and that's it. You then now like if you own Sahith all year long, that gives you something to look forward to at every single event, right? Or if you have a stable of 4 or 5 guys, you always know who you're looking for, and you always know you're getting paid on first, second, and third. So it's easy to follow along with. It is really, really interesting. And I think there's a lot of math-based ways to kind of beat up on it. So I will be diving into that over the course of the next couple of weeks and seeing where I wind up. Maybe I end up with nobody. Maybe I end up with some people, but TBD. I hope this was exciting, right? I'm amped for 2025. I'm amped about the way that the industry is going and the options that are available and the options that already exist are getting better. So again, everything you need is in the link in the description. I encourage you one more time. I like to support the industry and the community because it supports me, and I think it's good for the game, and I think it's good to break out of our little fantasy and gaming niche and show that we're kind of bigger in the golf world as of right now and as fans. So appreciate the support. I will talk to you guys very soon. You're watching this could be watching this right before Christmas, right before Hanukkah. Happy holidays, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah. Be safe, everybody. Be good. Talk to you soon.